All right, welcome in everybody. You're listening to the 5G Life podcast with Brian Castillo and Eric Coronado. This week, we're talking about guns, right? One of our 5Gs.
Yeah, we got plenty to say. We got plenty of guns, current climate. We'll see how this goes, man.
Yeah. Well, speaking of current climate, Eric, I know you have some statistics that you've seen around, but there are so many first-time gun owners, buyers this year. So I think really, before we get into anything, we should probably talk about some gun safety rules, right?
Yeah.
So I have here the NSSF, their top 10 gun rules. So let's go through these and let's see if we agree, all right?
Okay.
All right, number 1, always keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. Why don't you talk about that one, Eric?
The way I know that rule is do not point the gun at anything you do not intend to destroy.
Ah, good point.
So
Let's talk about some terminology. So, like, if you're at a gun range or a first-time gun owner, that's where you talk about that terminology. Always have it pointed downrange, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll get into it. I don't want to jump the gun here, but yeah, it's always. I think there's like 4 or 5 rules that are pretty universal, and yes, one of them is don't point it at anything you don't intend to shoot.
Okay, but so do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
all right,
100%.
All right. Always keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. And as Eric said, a safe direction, not at any target you don't intend to shoot at.
Yep.
All right. Number 2, firearms should be unloaded when not actually in use.
I don't know about that.
Say more and why.
Okay, so I don't know if it's on that list there because I haven't looked at this list, but in terms of anytime you handle a weapon, you always treat it as it is loaded.
So you always assume that it's live.
Always assume that it's live.
Okay.
So I know that's saying to keep it unloaded, but I don't know, man. Allegedly there's one by my bed and a few around the house that are loaded. But I mean, I guess it all depends whether you have a family or not, or whether your family's comfortable with guns.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot that goes into this rule, but more importantly, I think it's to what you had said. You want to always assume that it's live. Even if your magazine is clear in the gun, you always want to at least assume that there's one in the chamber and you want to verify it, correct?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times where it's like the people are drunk and the guns come out and like there's stupid people out there and they're like, oh, it's unloaded. And then somebody competent finally gets a hold of it and they're like, this bitch is fucking loaded. Like it's like, all right. Yeah.
Good point. So I think that's more appropriate. And I know I'm kind of catching you on the spot with this list, but I think that is somewhat of a good practice, especially if you're just like leaving one in the safe where you don't expect to use it for home defense. You kind of use it as recreational. It's a good thing, especially after you go shooting and whatnot, to verify that there's nothing in the chamber, nothing in the magazine. But me personally, I like to have some magazines at the ready. I just don't have them in the firearm.
So I got you. I understand.
I think this one is personal preference, but again, I like what you said there. Always assume it's live, people, and always verify. Trust, but verify. Okay.
All right. Let's see.
Let's see what else is on here. Don't rely on your gun's safety. So when we say that, people, for those of you who aren't that familiar with guns, there is a safety mechanism on firearms. It is an option, so we should point that out. Not all handguns, especially concealed carries, things like that, have a safety mechanism. So don't assume that it's in the safety position is how I interpret that one.
Yeah, I see that one as don't put your finger on the trigger unless you intend to shoot.
Okay.
That's the way I read that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to be on the list. Dude, how many are on here?
There's 10.
10? That's too many, man. That's people going to get confused. Can I just give you my, like,
yeah, let's hear Eric Coronado's for this. Again, this is from the National Firearms website.
People have a short attention span. They're not going to remember all this crap, 10 of them.
All right, let's hear it.
Let me give you my 4.
Okay.
Or 4. I don't know how many it is, but I can summarize it.
Okay.
So 1, always handle the firearm if it's loaded, no matter what. Like, unless you check it and clear it yourself, always treat it as that it is loaded. 2, don't point it at anything you don't intend to destroy. Shit, what else have I got? So, I mean, those are. Oh, and then there's some other ones where. No, I guess that's.
Are those kind of your main rules with firearm handling?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, don't. Again, that's kind of caught me off guard. The
one that I don't think people familiarize themselves enough. So you mentioned it. You and I own multiple firearms, right? A pistol is different from a shotgun or an assault rifle or uh, even a hunting rifle, something like that. So I think one thing, familiarize yourself with your gun. Even if you've been a gun owner, kind of get familiar with it. Take it apart before you ever have it, shoot it. Watch some YouTube videos. Kind of know your caliber, things like that. Do your homework is what I'm saying before you're going out to buy a weapon, and think about the application that you want. Because I think that goes into a lot of the safety. Because once you get more familiar, you get more comfortable with your weapon. You know exactly how it works, the mechanisms at which it fires. I think you're going to be that much more safe with that firearm.
yeah,
So
man, I'm kind of drawing blank, but I mean, those two right there would probably save your butt.
yeah, well, let's talk.
That's it. I just remembered. So,
Okay.
so one, treat it like it's always loaded. Two, don't point anything you don't intend to destroy. And three, keep your finger off the trigger unless you intend to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Those three right there,
You'll go pretty far.
You'll go pretty far.
Yeah.
I mean, once you get a little more experience and like in terms of like projectile and like kind of what you're shooting at, where you're like, okay, if I'm shooting through this, like what's behind what I'm intending to shoot, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So if you're shooting at something and there's something you don't want to hit behind it, obviously check your fire.
Yeah.
But so I guess those would be my four right there. And those are pretty. With those four, you can go pretty far.
Okay. The one I like to add too is always clean your weapon appropriately because it's dangerous to shoot a dirty firearm. And when I say dirty, don't get me wrong, people, and I know there's no exact science around this, but if you're shooting some cheap ammo, you're putting thousands of rounds through something, you may want to take that thing apart and clean it or oil it a little bit because you don't want any backfire or anything like that to happen. And I know you can speak a little bit more.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of cleaning, again, this will go back to that rule number one of always treat it like it's loaded.
Yeah.
I know of two cases, like two people that I've known that have shot themselves in the leg because they went to clean it and it was fucking loaded. And it's one of those, like, again, back to rule number one, or all those three rules I just gave you. Keep your finger off the trigger unless you intend to destroy something. Don't point at something you don't intend to destroy. Always treat it like it's loaded. They violated those three rules right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't do that.
No, I think it's just important to open up, especially with the pandemic, loosely call it that, the pandemic. But you and I are kicking ourselves for not investing in firearm sales, man. They're through the roof. We're going to talk a little bit more about it with some other topics I know, but parts are hard to come by. Ammo is hard to come by. There's people who were even adamantly against guns are buying guns because people are scared. You don't know what's going to happen. And
I got the statistic right here. So
go ahead.
And this article was written about a week ago. So there's 5 million new gun owners in America. So I didn't write down the exact statistic as how much higher they were from last year.
Yeah.
But it's through the roof. And so it's 5 million new gun owners in America.
Wow.
I'm trying to think. I remember 48% were women that were new gun owners.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was almost 60% African American. Those were the only ones I remembered. But man, I mean, with the Rona happening, civil unrest, and even like during an election year, like sales always go up, but they've never seen anything like this.
Wow, 5 million.
5 million. I was spotting around 2.5 million. And I was like, actually, like that was like from like 2 months ago. I wonder what it's at. And then I went and looked it up, and it was 5 million, which that is insane.
Well, that's why I think it's important, to talk about gun safety, really responsibility in owning a firearm, right? I mean, you and I are recreational users. You served in the Navy, so you've had some more tactical training and things like that than I do. You conceal carry, which we could talk a little bit more about that too. But
allegedly.
Okay.
First rule of concealed carry is you don't talk about concealed carry.
Well, I mean, you're from Texas, man. Isn't that like on your birth certificate?
Yeah,
don't they put that stamp on there, man?
That's always my joke about when people move to Texas. It's like, dude, like if you just check the box over at the DMV, they give you a gun. Like it's like, here's your Texas license, and here's this gun here. It's like, okay.
Yeah, man. No, I just think it's important to talk about it. I mean, I grew up around guns. I'm sure you as well. My father would hunt and things like that when he was um, younger and me growing up. But we always had a gun safe. It was always, he wanted us to be familiar with them. They weren't toys, and yeah, he'd take us shooting. Me and my sisters, things like that. So I've always been around them. I understand why people have reservations, but if you are going to undertake and take on that responsibility of being a gun owner, I think it's important to know those things, especially the safety aspects. So.
Yeah, and again, back to the 5 million new people owning guns. You have friends that love guns, and if you are unfamiliar with them, go seek their guidance. Do some training. Do some I don't mind teaching people firearm safety, how to shoot. I think I told you some people from a church they want to learn how to shoot, so we took them out with a bunch of ammo before the ammo shortage hit, which we'll get to that. But
so what was your approach taking out some first time shooters?
Again, we went over those same basic rules. Okay. We were shooting smaller caliber weapons, so it was 9 and 380. We had a few of the fun guns out there because that's what we do, but for the most part, like we kind of stuck them to 9s.
But you started them off with a pretty common.
Okay.
Go walk me through.
Walk you through. So I actually went and bought some of the ammo caps. So it's like the fake bullets that allows you to like handle the weapon, like kind of cycle it a little bit. And so basically I ran them through with a magazine filled with the caps. Okay, like this is empty, or back to you're picking it up. What do you assume? Okay, it's live. They kind of pop the slide back, look to see if there's anything in the chamber. Okay, it is unloaded. Then they pop in the magazine full of caps. They cycle the slide to put one in the chamber, and it's like, okay, now it's loaded. And then, depending on the firearm, look at the safety, the grip safety, just depending on what they were looking at. And then the other thing is we looked at their stance in terms of shooting and their hand placements on the gun. Like, how are they holding the gun? Yep. You'd be surprised. Like so one of the guys that we took out there, I don't know. I know there's different terms for it, but we called it the Beretta bite in the Navy. Okay. So whenever they're gripping a pistol, with their off dominant hand, somehow they grip around the other one, and the slide bites into their in between their index finger and thumb.
So as the slide is
engaged, as the slide, as you're shooting, it's like taking a chunk out of their hand. Ooh. So that's called the Beretta bite. That's what I know it as. So you try and teach. It's a lot easier to teach people that have zero experience with them. It's like, look, don't do that.
So you don't have like the bad habit.
Yeah, you don't have the bad habit. So the guy that did that had shot firearms before, but that was a bad habit of his, and I had to correct him so many times. So once we got through with like this is how you handle it, this is how you load it, then we actually did start shooting, and we were putting in like 2 or 3 rounds in the magazine at a time, and then letting them shoot.
Okay, so just getting them familiar.
Yeah, getting them familiar. How to squeeze the trigger, kind of what's happening.
Yeah.
And one of the what's the best way to put this? The firearm is a tool, and so a lot of people are just scared. Like, what is it doing mechanically? Am I going to break it? It's like, no. Like, this is like it's made out of metal. It'll be fine. Just handle it.
That's why one of my rules would be familiarize yourself with your firearm.
Yeah.
Because not all pistols are alike. Even though the basic principles of firing off a bullet, right? But there are differences between like a revolver, a semi-automatic pistol, and the hammers, and like you were talking about Beretta bite. That's a good one of where hand placement should be, and even different grips. Because I know you probably have different grips for some of your pistols, that are more comfortable depending on the person's hand. So that's why I'm saying get real familiar with your firearm if you are a first time.
And then the other one that I've taught multiple people how to shoot. The people at church, my little sister, we taught her how to shoot. She wasn't very comfortable with them, but one of the common things that I see whenever like people are shooting guns, like for whatever reason, like their arms are completely out and locked, and they're like leaning back,
real stiff,
like just real stiff. And I'm like, no, like give your arms a little bit of bent, like lean into it a little bit, like don't just lean back at the waist, like completely back. I guess they're
You think that's like they don't want to hear
no,
the fire?
I think is they're anticipating the recoil of the gun, like as it kind of like bounces back, and for whatever reason they're just always leaning back. So when we were out there shooting so it was one of our climbing buddies and then his wife, and so with the wife I was teaching her how to shoot, and I kept having to push her back forward because she kept leaning back.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, no, she was pretty good. So she was able to have a good stance, good form, like being able to squeeze multiple shots off. And then the other thing with new gun owners is they're scared of that recoil.
Oh yeah.
And so a good way that I found to get rid of that habit for people is have them dry fire a few times.
Can you explain what dry fire is?
Okay, so dry fire would be whenever the firearm is unloaded. Again, check to make sure the thing is unloaded. Treat it as
it's number one.
Yeah.
People. Come on.
Treat the thing as if if it's loaded. So you grab it, make sure it's empty.
Yep.
Whenever you bring the slide back, depending on the firearm, you can bring that firing pin back, which will allow you to, once you engage the trigger, the firing pin will come forward, and that's what shoots the firearm. So basically, with an empty firearm, you cock it back, and then you have them squeeze the trigger. Yep. And usually you can tell was like when that trigger gives, like people do like that weird little jerk, that little jump.
Mm-hmm.
So by dry firing, they learn as to where the trigger is going to go off and the tool is going to go off.
Yep.
So again, like people were kind of intimidated about this whole firearm thing. Like I just say it's a tool. It's like just the tool is doing its thing. You're pulling the trigger and it's doing it what it's supposed to. Obviously, the bang isn't going off, but
yeah,
if you're getting familiar as to where the trigger is making the tool go off, then you're a little more comfortable. So have them dry fire, and then once they get a little comfortable with that, then you can put bullets in, and that prevents them from like having all these like crazy wild shots as they're anticipating the gun to go off.
Well, and you and I have been shooting, together, and I told you I know exactly what I do with when I'm shooting a handgun, particularly my Glock 19. That I tend to shoot to the left, and I know it because I am anticipating that as well. And so I need to do some dry firing, and I think it's important, if you remember your number one rule, you could do dry firing at home. You just got to make sure
it's
not
unloaded.
live. Yeah. Now,
make sure it's unloaded.
Now I do have one question for you. So when you took these first time shooters, gun owners out, were you outdoors somewhere or were you at a range?
No, we were out in BLM land.
Okay.
Bureau of Land Management land. So we're out here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So there's a bunch of just land that's owned by the people. That's what it is. Yeah. So you can go out there. There's plenty of hiking to do, which again, why I moved out here, which I like it. But yeah, there's also some very common spots where people go shooting. You don't have to worry about other guns kind of going off beside you. Because I know you told me before your wife hates the indoor range, which I don't blame her. Like I've had some incidents before. Did I ever tell you the story when I got hit by a ricochet at the range?
What?
Yeah. Okay. So this is gonna be bad. Just to who I'm blaming. So this was in Houston. I went over to the range, and it was an indoor range. I was just in there shooting, doing my thing, minding my own business.
Yeah.
And I got done firing all my magazines, and I'm like loading a few of them. And then next thing I know, like I feel something hit me in the chest, and like I sit down on the ground. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So I get up, and there's a slug sitting on my tray. And like I kind of like walk out. I'm still kind of like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
So I get out and I go and talk to the guy that's over at the counter. And I'm like, hey, like is it common for people get hit by like ricochets in here? And he's like, well. It's like, not really, but it does happen. It depends if the people are shooting very stupidly in there. And we look, and there was a new firearms training course, and there was this woman who was just like flailing away and just shooting all over the place. So I'm guessing one of them took a bad bounce, maybe hit the ground, and then hit a bar and came back. But yeah, so I had the nastiest bruise on my chest for like a good 2 weeks, where it was purple and black where it hit me in the chest.
Yeah, and we're not. This was not a casing that hit you. This was the actual bullet.
Yeah, this was a slug. I still have it at home. It's sitting in my safe right now.
Wow.
And like this was the entire thing that just like caught me in the chest. So I mean, thankfully the another 6 inches up, that would have hit me in the face. Like that would have fucked me up real good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I get the hesitation as to why people don't like the indoor ranges.
Well, and hers is so when we're talking of an indoor range that we're describing, like the one that's popular here that you and I have gone to together, Calibers. You got the little blinders set up on each side, right? You got your lane. You set up your target. You put it at the distance you like, and it puts your target there. And so, as you're talking about, on the back wall, it's designed like a rubberized material at an angle so that if ricochet does occur, that it should not be going back to you. So, someone would have to be, like you were saying, shoot pretty damn stupid to be hitting you. And the reason I asked if you had taken people outdoors or to the range is so I prefer kind of just being out on my own, being responsible, being outside. Like, it's better experience for me, but I will say, if you want a more controlled environment, the ranges, their rules are very clear. They go over them with you. Make sure you go with someone who is experienced. Like Eric was saying, I'm sure most of us know that a person who, is a gun enthusiast, if you will.
Competent
with a firearm. But I would say if you want a more controlled environment, go to an indoor range. But even the city outdoor range, they're very strict. So if you're pointing that muzzle anywhere other than downrange, you will get kicked out. Yep. And if you're not loading your weapon properly, you will get kicked out. So I think if you want more controlled environments, I recommend going to the range. But if you're with a competent person, I prefer outdoor shooting. I don't know about yourself.
Yeah, and same thing. These things are supposed to be kind of well ventilated, depending on the place that you're going to. Back to Calibers, they're actually pretty good. The ventilation's good. But I've been to some where it's just, you walk in and you're like, damn, look at all this smoke. Like, it's like they're not even clearing this shit out.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can go either way. Let me see. I mean, we can segue into the current situation that's happening right now in terms of like firearms. So we're talking about.
So going back to, you're talking about like the shortage and a lot of new gun owners and with all the unrest and things going on. So
a few of the places that I've gone to out here completely stripped dry. All the ARs are gone, AKs are gone, a lot of the handguns are gone. You'll find some random models out there. Some of the more old school 1911s and stuff like that. But yeah, man, like everything is gone. Like I've been shooting guns. I was probably like 7 years old. Like that was the first time I got like a 22. So I've always kept my eye on the kind of the guns that are out there, and I've never seen it this empty.
Yeah,
like anywhere. It's ridiculous.
It is such a weird time. I agree. I mean, for context, so you just turned 33, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got about 25 years of experience then being around firearms, guns, and whatnot. Wow. Yeah, and I would say myself, like I said, I grew up around them. My dad hunted, and I would go shooting with my buddies in high school and stuff like that. So, probably about 15 years for myself. But I think what's interesting about that, it kind of what we were talking about earlier, where you said 5 million. So, I mean, supply just cannot keep up with demand in any aspect of guns, right? I mean, parts, ammo, complete firearms, and to your point too, an election year. That really drives a lot of this just because there's so many unknowns.
Yeah, I mean that's every election year. Especially I remember 2016, same thing. The ammo shortage kind of happened, but again, this is like unprecedented levels of not only firearms but like ammo. So like right now, I'm working on a few builds. So I got like a 300 blackout build.
Well, why don't you talk about what is a build?
So a build is I'm currently building an AR style gun. So it is a pistol, not a rifle. that I'm building. So the barrel is under 16 inches, and there is an arm brace on it, and not a stock. So so I'm building one for myself, and I'm building one for my brother. And
Same caliber.
no, so my brother's is the 5.56 NATO. That's your typical AR round.
Mm-hmm.
So his birthday is coming up, and I told him I was building one, and like the kind of what was on it. And he was like, "Oh, sweet!" And I was like, "Look, like when I give you this, like, don't change anything on it, because there's like a bunch of weird ATF rules to where
ATF.
so the alcohol, tobacco, firearms, the evil people from like Waco and Ruby Ridge, all that kind of but that's for another time.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's a thing as a AR pistol and a short barrel rifle.
Mm-hmm.
So the short barrel rifle would be, again, anything with under 16 inches.
Okay.
But instead of an arm brace, there's a stock on it on the end. So you kind of have to look at the what I'm talking about in terms of the arm brace and the stock. They kind of look the same, but they have different functions. And for whatever reason, the ATF said one's okay and one's not. So it's very easy. Back to the brother, I was telling him it's very easy to change something on your firearm, and it is a felony. Like, and ARs are kind of like Legos. You can just buy random parts online. Like, nothing's really all that regulated, and you can get into some real big trouble if you change some things on it.
And you don't realize, and that's important to note that there's different state laws, regulations.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's important to know that. No, I wanted you to explain what a build, because I know some people have never done that before. And I actually, when I dabbled with assault rifles, or the AR-15 build was, so I worked for ConocoPhillips Oil and Gas, and when I was at the gas plant, I mean, everyone and their mother owned multiple firearms, pro hunting, pro gun, everything, right? And all these guys were like, you don't really work here until you build an AR. Same thing. They're like, boys, you'll hear that saying over and over again, that boys never really grow up. They just get older and buy more expensive toys. It's probably true. And so a bunch of the guys there had done countless builds. We could talk about the components or even another day, but I built my first AR-15, and I didn't even have like really proper the tools or anything. Like, I watched a couple YouTube videos and did it, and I made sure to have the gunsmith over at Calibers check it out before I fired it for the first time. So, but no, I've been addicted since. Let's talk a little bit about calibers. So I think for those of you that aren't familiar and whatnot, probably in my opinion, the three most common, I'll go four. Four most common caliber, meaning the caliber of the bullet, the type of bullet that you're going to be shooting, would be, like you said, 5.56 NATO or 2.23.
It's the same round. It's the same round.
Yeah, which that's going to be for your stock AR-15 build.
Yeah, for the most part.
And some hunting rifles, things like that. And then 9mm and 45 ACP, in my opinion, are probably your most common handgun ammos. I know that there are other popular carries that aren't those calibers, but I think that's consistent with what you'll see.
The other one I would add to that is the AK round. What is it? 7.51 by 39, I think. Something by 39.
You think that's pretty common?
Oh yeah. So I mean, the ARs and the AKs are what's like constantly out there.
Real popular.
Yeah, real popular. Which is which I think I need to get an AK, man. Like, that's the only ammo that I see out there.
Well, and AK builds are definitely not as common, I would say.
Yeah, it gets a lot more expensive. Usually you got to buy those kind of built already. So I've seen a few of them out there. I guess, but this is America. Okay, get that AR, none of that metric shit. Yeah.
Well, but when we talk about calibers and diameters, that is metric system. Yeah, no, 9mm, man. Come on, don't confuse the people. That's actually 22 long rifle. That was the other ammo I was going to say.
Oh yeah,
for the longest time, that was hard to get anyway, and because it's so cheap, it's so readily available. I mean, it's the adult BB gun, man. And not to dismiss it. You can kill someone with a 22. I have an AR-22. I could pop 30 rounds very accurately from about 100 yards, and I could totally kill something.
A quick tip: I follow a few podcasters on. I mean, they're just podcasters, and on YouTube they always have videos. And
Yeah.
they were talking about the ammo shortage. And this started happening during the beginning of Rona. So somebody put out a video which totally meshed and it made sense to me. They were saying that if you see 22 long rifle right now, buy it because it's going to be out. It's kind of like this kind of same thing happened back when Obama was president. With the ammo shortage. So he was suspecting that the same thing was going to happen. So he was saying if you see 22 long rifle, buy it because usually what the manufacturers will do is they'll switch off to another caliber because 22 long rifle is the least profit margins.
Well, it's cheap, and your margins aren't that.
Yeah,
they're because it's so cheap.
Yeah, so the margins are much smaller, so they're going to switch up their manufacturing to make other stuff. So they're making everything else. They're not going to be making 22 for a while. And so he was saying it was like you're probably not going to see 22 for like over a year. I mean, kind of the same thing that happened back in.
Yeah.
When was that? Like 2012 or something like that?
Yeah. I would say even probably, and it felt like to me longer than a year. I think it was like 2012 to 2015. Then you just had this resurgence.
Yeah.
Of 22 long rifle.
Yeah, but I mean, the ammunition's gone, man. Usually I go to the grocery store. There's like two firearm places that are in my route, and I kind of like stop in and see what they got.
Yeah.
So if they have a caliber that I commonly use, like I might buy it, but again, man, this is capitalism, baby. Those prices are going up and up and up. So I have enough to where I can train again. Back to the training for the new firearm owner. Just get your training in. You're never too old to train. But so we're still training a little bit, but we're not just blowing we're not doing magazine dumps as they call it, like every weekend. You just can't do it anymore.
Well, see, and that's where I haven't gone shooting during this whole time. I don't want to because I stocked up on ammo preemptively, knowing that this was going to happen. But yeah, I'm going to be rusty, and I like that you say it is like a tool or like anything else. I'm an athlete who's done other things too, and it really is that memory, right? That muscle memory. You talked about stance, your hands. Your trigger pull,
the squeeze. So it's not okay. That's actually a good thing. A good tip for like the new owners. Like pulling the trigger. I've always taught you squeeze the trigger.
Well, let's talk about squeeze. So I think there's an aspect of squeezing to gripping, actually the pistol grip, and then you're talking the actual action of pulling back. Squeezing.
What
do you mean by squeezing the trigger?
The reason I'm using that term is for when I'm teaching people.
Okay.
So usually, like pull the trigger. Again, like you were doing the motion of just the index finger kind of coming in and out. But when you teach the squeeze, it's the hand. The hand is clothing onto the trigger, and so that allows you to have a more centered shot. Because if you're just pulling the trigger, again, we're talking about doing the same thing, but if you can describe it a little better for the new gun owner, I think it helps understand. So back to the friends we were teaching, I was telling them like squeeze the trigger. So that when you're holding the pistol with two hands, I was doing like the motion of when you're squeezing, like the force is kind of coming towards the middle of your two hands, like coming towards the center, not just the finger that's moving, that's pulling the trigger.
Right.
Does that make sense? I know I'm explaining it, and I'm hoping people can kind of visualize it.
Yeah.
But if you get your hands on the firearm, whenever you're squeezing, like you can tell the difference instead of just the index finger moving.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Well, and so talking about going back to your builds that you were doing, like your parts shortage and whatnot. So what would you recommend to someone who maybe wants to build for the first time now because parts are so spare? Like, what would you prioritize getting first? Because it might take a while now as parts become available with demand outweighing supply. So actually, why don't you talk about the basic components,
like the part
of an AR-15 build, because that is the most popular.
That's what I was going to get into. Okay, so what I would get first is your lower. and that is what is controlled by the government.
And lower, you're talking about the lower receiver.
So lower receiver. So with the ARs, that is what has a serial number. That is what is tracked.
That's what will be registered to you.
I mean, I wouldn't consider it register but that's what they do the background check against.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whenever you say register for firearms, people are like, oh no, like they're trying to take your guns, get a list, and then
but that would be the formal process of that serial number is attached to your name when you make that purchase.
Correct. Yes. So the lowers are kind of hard to come by right now because people are buying them up. So what I've seen the most struggle to try to get is the lower and the upper receivers. They're gone.
I mean, and when you talk about upper receiver, you're talking about a complete upper because there's a few different components within an upper receiver.
Just the stripped upper. So
what does that mean? Again, we have people who might not know.
So I guess I can go by the parts. So basic parts, you have your barrel, usually some sort of handguard that goes over it. Your upper receiver, which that's what the barrel is attached to.
The frame, basically.
The frame, basically. Then you have your lower receiver, which is your lower frame. The magazines, that's what holds your bullet.
Your bolt carrier.
Carrier group, that's what cycles the ammunition and shoots it. A buffer tube, that's on the back. That kind of controls the cycling of the firearm, and a stock in the back. What else? A handle.
The buffer tube is also for some absorption of the force.
Yeah, so it's for absorption of the force, and it's actually what cycles the gun. There's some other little minor parts in there, but that is your basics. So
those are your basics, and that's your upper is what you just described. Right?
Yeah, so your stripped upper, so your uppers and your lowers are extremely hard to come by.
So the lower receiver. So what other components with the lower receiver? Because if you did like a lower receiver kit, you're going to get your pistol grip. Your trigger.
But that's what I was saying. There's other little parts, but I think for people to visualize, so it's just barrel, upper, lower, and your stock and the tube, and your internals. But I would recommend just getting lowers, man. I mean, they're not that expensive. Well, I'd say they're not that expensive. Don't buy anything that's crazy overpriced. So I mean, a decent lower probably costs you about $100.
Yeah.
Same thing with like an upper. For just your typical AR build. I mean, there's some ARs for like a bigger caliber gun, but yeah, man, things are hard to come by right now.
So to give perspective, the first AR-15 I built, 5.56 NATO, was from components from Palmetto State Armory, one of my favorite sites where they do have some pretty good deals every now and then.
Yeah.
Especially with AR components, but I think I built that thing for about $600, and that was back in 2013. Yeah, 2013, and I remember I got my lower receiver for $50 plus shipping. You know what I mean? And granted, that was 7 years ago, but last election go around in 2016, I bought a stock Ruger AR-15 and I picked it up on Palmetto for $450. That MSRP is right now off the shelves at $850.
Yeah,
and that was before this inflated environment. I'd probably sell that thing for $1,100 right now.
Yeah, talking about prices, that's probably a good thing to talk about. So for my brother's build, I'm saying I probably have about $1,000 into it. And that is with, I wouldn't say like top of the line,
but you have
but these are like these are like great components for the price. So I'm using like Aero Precision, that's a great company.
Mm-hmm.
Ballistic Advantage, that's for the barrels, another great company.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is a little more pricier, like that pistol brace I was talking about. That's like $150. So these things add up, but I'm a big mechanic junkie. Like back to me being an engineer, like I love to learn how stuff works. Firearms is just one of those things. It's just a tool, and I want to know how it works.
Well, and going back to my rule, what better way to learn your firearm than to build it? Right? Because you actually have to know what you're doing and pay attention. And if you trust yourself to build it, which I trusted, but I verified because I got the gunsmith to check it out for me. Because I trusted my handiwork in YouTube, but I wanted to verify it as well. So
but again, it's like, even trying to get the parts right now, that's not even your problem. Right now is the ammunition, man. It's just gone.
So you could build it, but you might not be able to go shoot.
True. Yeah, that's so. I told my brother back to my brother's build. I told him I was building them one. I was like, hey, like if you go to the store and you see any 223 or 556, pick it up. I was like, because I'm building you something. He was like, okay, but yeah, he called me a few days ago and he told me he still hasn't been able to find any at the stores, man. It is gone.
Well, and people have hoarded ammo worse than milk and groceries when this whole thing started. It's worse than the TP shortage, man. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, ammunition's a good thing to have.
Especially
with the especially in terms of like the current climate. I mean, I get why people are buying this stuff up. I mean, people are freaked out with. So I bought a bunch of my ammunition when Rona hit because I knew this was going to happen. So I bought a bunch of it then at a good price.
Well, I remember back in January we both got some pretty sweet deals after Christmas season on some ammo right before this whole stuff hit. So.
Yeah, but I mean, so with Rona happening, and then with the civil unrest and people push. I don't want to talk about politics, but the whole defund the police thing, like people don't know what that means. Like they're like shit. Like they're trying to get rid of all the cops. Like what am I supposed to do?
Well, I think it's so many unknowns to what you're talking about. I mean, you even look at California, right, which has had some of the strictest gun laws in the country. And, I mean, people are flooding to the streets to go buy weapons out there.
Yeah, if you want to talk about California, it's some good news for the gun enthusiasts out there. So hopefully this will translate to other states. But so they recently ruled that the 30-round magazines were unconstitutional in California. Okay. And so that wasn't at the state court. That was the one above it. I'm not too familiar with the levels of the courts. Sure. It's not the Supreme Court, but it's the one right under it.
But for the state of California.
But usually when something like that happens, other people will press in other states. Because I know there's a few other states where you can't have anything more than 10 rounds. Which I think it's a dumb rule, but I don't know where people get these ideas in their heads. Usually with these lawmakers, so they'll come up with rules, but they're not even firearms people themselves. Mm-hmm. Kind of like on a funny note, I do have it on my notes here, like with the whole 30-round magazine things. So me being from Texas, we have wild boars out there, and those things are a fucking menace, man. Like people hate those things. That's always been my excuse. Is like, this is why we need 30-round magazines, man. I'm just gonna keep shooting these things. There was a guy that went viral because so he used the excuse that I had been using for years, but his tweet went viral, and I got it written down here. It's like, what am I supposed to do when there's 20 to 30 pigs on my lawn while my kids are trying to play? So this is very common in Texas. Like these things come in like giant swarms, and they just destroy everything. They're super aggressive. So yeah, like people are just out there just destroying these things. Just trying to get rid of them. So that's always been my thing. It's like, dude, like I need as much ammunition as I can carry to put these things out.
Well, that's actually. I don't think most people are buying weapons to kill wild pigs in their front yard, Eric. But to your point, what would you say is the most common reason that most of these people are buying firearms? Is it for protection? Would you say self-defense, home protection, or property?
Yeah, I think for right now it's for home protection. Again, like I pray to God you never have to use these things. Yeah. Kind of same for myself, but it does bring a peace of mind to the home where it's like because
where you never want to use it, but you're glad that you have it.
But you're glad that you have it. We've all had experiences where you're just like, you're minding your own business and sometimes trouble finds you.
Sure.
Like that's just a fact of life. Like if you don't think so, like you're living in this fantasy land. Yeah. So just having a firearm in the house, like it gives people that comfort. Like again, you never want to have to use it. Like you know where it's at. But yeah, man, like sometimes just shit just happens in your front door and you're like, well, like I'm glad I have this thing. How's the saying go? It's like when second counts, cops are minutes away.
If
that makes sense.
Well, and I think that goes to what I know you talk about a lot of time with personal responsibility. Well, who's the most responsible for your safety and yourself, right? It is you. And then especially if you have a family, you take on that responsibility, right? So I feel having a wife, even, as silly as it may sound, I don't have kids yet, but dogs and my wife, like I will defend them in my household, and I want to have the tools available and at my disposal to be able to do that. But at the same time, I would say for my most purposes, I like to have them recreational.
Yeah,
I like
true.
to go shooting, and I think it's a fun hobby if you do it responsibly. I mean, I got to tell you, every time I still go to the range and pull that trigger, like it's just a thrill, man.
Yeah.
To be hitting targets and getting better at it, whether you're shooting a handgun or a rifle. But yeah, I like having them around for home defense. What would you recommend, since we do have so many new gun owners out there, and if you are able to get your hands on something, what would you recommend for home defense? Because I know there's varying opinions on that.
Yeah, I mean, again,
what's your
opinion? For my opinion, the MP Shield is what I like. So it holds.
Talk a little bit more about this.
So
we're talking a handgun.
Yeah. So this is handgun. Okay, let me get a little more descriptive.
Yeah.
So it is a pistol. It's usually used for concealed carry. It's probably one of the most common ones that people will use for concealed carry.
Trusted brand.
Yeah, it's a trusted brand, Smith & Wesson. Yeah, it's only about like an inch thick, like in width. It holds 7 to 8 rounds, 9 if you have one in the chamber, if you're comfortable with that.
And what caliber?
And so they come in 9mm, 45, and I believe 380, which is the smaller one than 9.
And what would you recommend for home defense out of those calibers?
9mm probably, just because. So I'm trying to keep women in mind. Again, like when I taught my sister how to shoot and handle the firearm, one of the big troubles that I usually see is bringing the slide back. Like usually women struggle with that, like because of their hand size, because of the strength. For whatever reason, they're scared they're going to break it.
And for clarification, that's what actually places the round into the chamber.
Correct. Yeah. So whenever you bring the slide back, that brings a round from the magazine into the chamber and allows you to shoot. So it basically loads the weapon and puts it in the firing position. But yeah, I would recommend a 9. There's all these debates as to like 45's got more stopping power. There's like all this other stuff. But I mean, technology the way that it is, some of this ammunition, like there's a bunch of engineering that goes into it. So there's a lot of power now in some of those smaller rounds.
Yeah.
And usually with as the caliber comes down, usually you can pack more into the magazine, which people like more bullets. I know people say this a lot, but it's, real life isn't like the movies. It's like, oh, like, what do you need more than 10 rounds? Like, well, it's like, because you miss all the time. Like, you just do. I think Bill Burr had that joke about there. It's like, oh, like you shoot, you keep shooting, like eventually you're just standing there with a stapler in your hand. But yeah, so I'd rather have enough ammunition to handle whatever problem like comes up. But yeah, so Smith & Wesson MP Shield. I know they have an easy version that I've heard a few of my female friends that love that thing just because it has a lighter spring in it, so they can actually load the thing, and it's way easier for them.
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean that's
okay.
I know one of our coworkers got one because that's what we recommended, and But yeah, that's probably what I would recommend. Something in 9mm.
That's my favorite. I've told you, my Glock 19, and my argument with that too. For those of you out there who probably know way more about ammo and things like that than me, but stopping power, well. If I miss with 17 shots, I probably deserve to die. So that's kind of my argument. Plus, I mean, so you recommend the 9. I would agree, but I kind of like going back to Bill Burr, his skit on him wanting to buy a gun for the household. The guy at the counter tells him, it's got a good spread, you got to go with the shotgun. I actually do recommend that. So I do have a handgun. I actually have a .38 Special revolver that is at my accessibility in my bedroom. I won't say where, and I won't say if
allegedly.
But the reason I like that is it's the revolver, right? 6 shots. You don't have to pull a slide back. You just pull the trigger, man, and the hammer engages, right? And so that's. But I would say, I do have a shotgun, and it is in my gun safe.
Is this a pump shotgun or semi-auto?
It is. It's the Remington 870 semi-auto pump shotgun.
We can talk about this real quick. But I've heard this from several friends that have been in those rough situations where just the racking of the slides, and I've also been there myself, like that, like loading something. That is enough to deter people.
Well, and that's what I was going to say.
That is enough to deter people.
So if I had the time, because I have a 2-story house, if I had the time to get into my safe, I would prefer my shotgun as well because I don't have to be as accurate.
Yeah.
And that is an intimidating slide in an altercation. And I kind of like the fact that even if you didn't use it, like, don't get me wrong, pistol whipping someone would, do some damage.
That's too close, man.
It is too close, but if you had to swing a shotgun at someone, you totally could. So I kind of like that.
Now, that's probably not a bad recommendation. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've said that before to a few friends where it's I think it's a lot harder to shoot yourself with a rifle and a shotgun than with a pistol. Because with a pistol, you can, again, point that thing toward yourself a lot easier. Your hands, it's going to be pretty close to the trigger just because of the size of the actual firearm itself. But yeah, I mean, I think they're a good deterrent. I mean, again, kind of current situation. What happened? What is it, like the Ken and Kyle, or what is it? The Ken and Karen, over in St. Louis. The husband was like pointing the rifle at his wife a few times, and like things were looking a little rough. But the
way she was holding the handgun, that is not how you hold a handgun.
Yeah,
don't take that as law.
Well, some news came out. I don't know if people know about it. I know we talked about it. In terms of some shadiness happening with the DA's office over there. So that firearm that woman was holding was not able to shoot. Like, it would not fire. She
attempted to fire away?
So she was basically holding a prop gun. It was a real firearm, but it was basically a prop gun.
Okay.
So the only weapon that actually was functional was what the man was holding, was that AR.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So there was really no intention to use the firearms, is what you're kind of saying. At least in her case.
Yes, in her case. Yeah. So people were like, oh, she was out there pointing at people. Well, I don't know if she knew or she didn't. No one else knows that other than her.
Sure.
But that pistol she was holding was not able to shoot. Yeah. And so whenever the police department actually came in and took the firearms. They took the firearm apart and put it back together to make it functional, and then were able to charge them. So that's why people were like, "What the fuck are they doing over there?" So there's some shadiness happening. But my point was, you can tell by these people that they didn't have any training at all. But yet,
going back to your rules.
Yeah. So they didn't have any training with the firearm, but they were still able to deter that mob. So I mean, people are like, oh, peaceful protest, mostly peaceful, whatever. They shouldn't have been in that area. Whatever your thoughts are in terms of private property or not, if they felt threatened, which they did, they came out in their front yard, which I wouldn't have done. I probably would have been on the roof. But anyways, they were up there posturing, and that posturing, even with zero training, was enough to where it kept people in line. And again, you pray that you never have to use these things, but I mean, that was enough to where people were like, well, like, we're not going to get too rowdy in here. Yeah. I mean, that's the way I see it. I know people view that differently, and it's like, oh, they shouldn't have been doing that. But I have the belief as, like, you don't mess with people's homes. Sure. And that's the way I saw that whole situation playing down. They were at these people's homes, and I don't know what I would do in that situation, but it would probably be somewhere around the same.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we don't want to go into politics too much, but de-escalation in general, right? Where in a situation like that, and then what can you do? You're outnumbered in that case. Your property is being invaded, your personal space, right? So having that is something that I would rather have than not have, like you were saying. But obviously, there could have been some better actions taken on both sides.
Yeah, of course.
That case, but we're not talking about that. I think, to your point, having a firearm in the household is a deterrent.
Yes.
Period. But you also have to keep in mind what you were talking about, kind of the number one rule of don't point at a target without the intention of destruction. I think you have to realize that if you are trying to defend your home, you take that firearm in your hands, you have to be prepared to use it.
Yeah.
You do not want to go into a situation where hesitation occurs, whether you're carrying a firearm or driving a vehicle. That's when accidents happen, man. And especially not knowing the nature of the intruder or potential burglar or whatever may be happening, invasion of your home, you don't know what they're carrying or not either. And that's another kind of reason in my justification where I'd rather have more rounds
Yeah.
than not. You don't know what situation you're walking into. But I think most importantly, you really have to be responsible with your firearms. And even, you talked about our coworker in our recommendation. One of the first things he did was get a safe. He made sure he had a safe.
Yeah.
He's got 2 young girls at home. You gotta know your surroundings, know your situation, know your firearm, make sure it's stored properly, and just get familiar with it. And I think to your point, train and train and train, and the more comfortable you are, the more familiar you're going to get with your firearm, and the more prepared you're going to be in case you did ever have to use it. And I think that's really important if you are going to dabble into the gun universe, if you will.
Yeah, from what I've seen on the a few of the YouTube channels that I follow that follow a bunch of gun news, from what they were saying is they are seeing that happen with all these new gun owners. Which is kind of contributing to the ammo shortage, is that there's all these new gun owners and they're buying up ammunition as well. But like in terms of like training, it's going up. So a lot of people are getting trained to use these things, which like I'm very optimistic about, because it's a little scary when you're like, shit, like 5 million new like gun owners.
Yeah.
It's like that sounds a little scary. But again, it's like find you somebody who knows what they're doing, get a little bit of training, get you comfortable with it. But yeah, from what they were saying, it's a lot of people are seeking training, which again, you're never too old to train. Like seek it out, man. I dig it. I really do.
Well, and talking about training, we talked about going out with like your buddies or someone who's familiar. I know I've talked to you about it. I would like to take like, maybe a tactical shooting course. I think it'd just be fun to do, right? And kind of learn some new techniques, learn some good habits, and build upon them when I go to the range. So I'd like to do that at some point as well. And I know, you're ex-Navy, and I know you hang out with some ex-military buddies, and they go into way detail, right? They're doing some distance shooting. They can tell you the projectile drop of a bullet, things like that. So I know you're going with some very experienced, very much so gun enthusiastic people. So.
I always call them they're autistic for their guns. They're out there like telling you like, oh, you got like 2,500 velocity drop per minute, like drop rates, blah blah blah. And it's like Jesus, like this is like, I was like, I just like to point and shoot, and okay, like drop rates, okay, I get that for the long distance.
Yeah.
But yeah, they like know all these like velocity numbers and like what's happening to the rounds. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, but it's find you one of those people. Like, dude, there's so much knowledge there. I'm very happy with the group of friends that I've made.
Yeah.
I always see that as I always tell people this, like, I feel very blessed about doing my military time, because I always seem to find what I consider family in different locations.
Yeah.
So when I moved out here to Albuquerque, didn't know anybody. But usually, like, I've always had this eye where I can like kind of look at people and like, oh, like he's served before, like he's got some darkness to him. I'm sure we can be friends. And so, yeah, that's what I've done. I've always been able to find fellow veterans out there, and we have enough in common to where we get along, and usually I can make friends anywhere. I really do feel blessed about that.
Well, building on that to kind of end our segment here today, there is a large gun community, people, whether it's YouTube, you want to find resources, plenty of websites. Your local gun stores, they'd be happy to point you in the right direction for courses, things like that. If you don't have that friendship, so I do your research and find out what fits for you, and make sure that you get to that comfortability with your firearm. But we like to end every episode with something we like to call "Get Off Your Lawn." So we basically Eric talks about it. That's kind of our political philosophy. Just like leave me alone, get off my lawn. We're those old men telling you to get off their lawn in the rocking chair. So you want to go first this week, Eric? What you got? 60 seconds to tell the people why they need to get off your lawn this week.
Man, I knew this was coming. I was thinking of a few of them, and then I just kind of forgot about them. You go first.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Okay.
I'm terrible at this.
So leaving all of your position, opinion, politics out of it. Stop surrounding people in these peaceful protests or mobs. You're putting yourself in terrible situations. Whether you are very angry and you are upset and you believe in the cause, just stop surrounding individuals. You had examples of it in Austin, Texas, where someone was shot defending his girlfriend and killed, but he took part in surrounding a vehicle of someone that he didn't know, and you're in Texas and everyone has a gun, like you talked about at birth. And so don't put yourself or others in those situations, and quit surrounding people. You're creating a threatening environment, and I don't care how good the cause is. So quit surrounding people, and because if you do that, if you partake, deal with the consequences.
Yeah, there's back that Austin shooting. Everybody's got guns, man. I told you they give you one at the DMV. Like that was not a. You have to with the if you're open carrying like that, you have to conduct yourself differently. Like that is just a fact. I get that people were getting surrounded and that's your get off my lawn, but if you have a firearm on you, you are held at a different standard than those who are not. You have to de-escalate situations.
Yeah.
But I finally thought of one from my get off my lawn.
Yeah.
So this one has to do with the whole mask thing. So
wait, mask?
The mask, yeah.
Okay.
In terms of the whole Rona thing.
Okay.
So I wear it for personal responsibility again. I don't like that they're forcing me to do it, especially with our governor having us wear it while we're exercising. But that's what I'm getting into the get off my lawn. So I was climbing and somebody came up to my partner while I was on the wall. So it usually takes two people, like somebody who's belaying you, who's spotting you. So my mask kept coming off while I was climbing. And so a woman came up to my partner and was telling them that to tell me to put my mask on, which initially I got angry. I didn't tell her anything. And then I kind of joked about that. I had the epiphany. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just going to kill these people with kindness now. So instead of getting angry about people telling you to wear the mask, like just kill them with kindness. And my way to do that was I want to pray for you right now. Just like put your hands over them, make them completely comfortable. It's like, God bless you. Jesus loves you. You're out here just taking care of people. He wants you to live forever. You're one of his chosen children. Just, they're just intrusion. They're coming into your personal space. Just do it to them, and they won't know how to react. Usually, people know how to react to anger, but if you're being very awkward and you're like, "Oh, let me pray for you right now," with something good like that, that's usually going to throw people off. So that's a get off my lawn. Like, just leave me alone. I know I'm supposed to wear it. I'm fucking wearing the damn thing. Just leave me alone, all right? Again, I am wearing it, but if it comes off a little bit, just go away. Like, just mind your own business, lady.
Fair enough. Well, that'll be good. That's kind of a teaser. Next time we'll be talking about gains in the gym during the pandemic, and we can talk about a little bit about mask wearing there. So thanks for listening in, and we'll catch you all next time.
All right, goodbye.